His lips were on her neck, her fingers tangled in his hair, their bodies pressed together like they belonged to each other. But they didn't. He belonged to me. And the worst part? They weren't in some dimly lit hotel room. No, they were in my home, in my bed, between the sheets I had carefully chosen for our anniversary. And the moment I saw them, standing there in the full betrayal of the moonlight, something inside me didn't just break. It burned. Oh, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even give them the satisfaction of knowing they had destroyed me. Instead, I did something much, much worse. I smiled. Because if James Kensington thought he could humiliate Scarlett Kensington, his loving, devoted, perfectly loyal wife of 7 years, then he had no idea just how dangerous I could be when I felt humiliated. You see, some women cry, some beg, some quietly pack their bags and leave. I ruin men. And James? James was about to learn that the hard way. I should probably introduce myself. My name is Scarlett Kensington. I'm 32 years old, a TV producer, and the wife of the man who made the biggest mistake of his life. I was once the picture-perfect, well-mannered, high-society wife. The kind who threw elegant dinner parties, knew the right things to say at charity galas, and wore the perfect shade of red lipstick that never smudged. Until I walked in on my husband, James Kensington, in the middle of the kind of sin that would make the devil blush. And the woman he was sinning with? Elena Hart, my best friend. Oh, the irony. The very woman who toasted at my wedding, swearing James and I were soulmates. The same woman who sat across from me every Sunday brunch, gushing about how lucky I was to have a husband as devoted as James. The woman who would sip champagne from the glasses. I bought her while sleeping with my husband. But here's the thing about betrayal. Once you feel it, something inside you wakes up. Something dark. Something cunning. I wasn't going to wallow. I wasn't going to drown in heartbreak. I was going to destroy them. And I knew exactly how. James was a high-powered news anchor, the golden boy of primetime television. The kind of man America trusted to deliver their nightly news with a confident smirk and a crisp navy blue suit. The type of man who had everything to lose, so I gave him something to lose. I spent the next 2 weeks setting the stage for my masterpiece of vengeance. Carefully, methodically, ensuring every detail was flawless. And then, when the night was just right, I took my revenge. Live. On national television, where millions of people would watch his world shatter in real time. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because before the grand finale, there was the setup. And oh, it was delicious. The night I caught James with Elena, I did something he never expected. I walked away, calmly, silently, smiling. Not a single tear, not a single confrontation. I just grabbed my purse, looked him dead in the eye, and whispered, "Enjoy her while you can." Then I left. He thought I was broken. He thought I was defeated. Oh, baby, he had no idea. The next morning, I played the role of the forgiving wife, the woman who needed space to think. James tried calling me 20 times. I ignored them all. Then he texted me, begging to talk. I sent one reply. Not yet. Let him sweat. Let him wonder. Let him think I was processing my emotions when in reality, I was orchestrating his downfall. First, I went to work. Not just any work. My job as an executive producer for The Morning Truth, the highest-rated talk show in the country. And you know what we specialized in? Live. Unfiltered. News. The kind that exposed politicians, business moguls, and celebrities for the frauds they were. And this time? The fraud was my own husband. I went straight to my boss, Vivian Cole, a woman who smelled opportunity the way a shark smells blood. I gave her the pitch of a lifetime. We need a scandal, a high-profile one, something juicy, something no one will see coming, something personal. She narrowed her eyes. Who's the target? I smiled. James Kensington. There was a pause, a flicker of hesitation, then a slow smirk. I'm listening. Oh, she was going to love this. Over the next week, I pulled strings, manipulated the chessboard, and set up the perfect moment. First, I secured a special guest slot for James on our live show. I told him it was a segment on the ethics of journalism, something he could never resist. He was a narcissist, after all. Give him a stage and a spotlight, and he'd dance like a trained dog. Second, I hacked his phone. Okay, maybe not hacked in the traditional sense. But when you've been married to someone for 7 years, you learn their passwords. I scoured his texts, emails, and private messages for proof of the affair. And oh boy, did I hit the jackpot. Naked pictures, explicit messages, videos of them together, a reservations receipt for the hotel where he took her after I caught them, all stored neatly in a folder labeled evidence. Then came the final touch, a little inside help. I made a deal with our show's IT guy. I need a technical malfunction during James's live interview, I whispered, sliding him a crisp stack of bills. Something that accidentally exposes a, let's say, personal file. He grinned. Consider it done. And just like that, the trap was set. James Kensington had no idea that in less than 48 hours, his entire world would come crumbling down. Live. For the whole world to see. James Kensington sat in the brightly lit studio, completely unaware that he was moments away from total annihilation. He adjusted his navy blue tie, flashed his signature TV smirk, and smoothed his hair, just like he always did before a big appearance. The man had no idea that this was not going to be just another smooth-talking interview. Oh no, baby, this was going to be the night his carefully built career, reputation, and marriage crumbled on live television. And I would be the one holding the match. From the control room, I watched as the countdown began. The cameras zoomed in, capturing James in all his smug glory as he prepared to charm millions of viewers. Across from him sat our show's host, Vivian Cole, the woman I had turned into my personal wrecking ball. She wasn't just a journalist. She was a predator in designer heels, a woman who loved blood in the water. And tonight, she was starving. The red light blinked. The show was live. Vivian leaned in, smiling sweetly. Tonight we have a very special guest, James Kensington, America's most trusted news anchor. James gave his award-winning grin, the kind that made viewers at home believe he was the perfect, ethical, happily married man. I almost laughed. Vivian continued, her voice smooth. James, the media world is constantly changing. As a journalist, integrity is everything. Wouldn't you agree? He nodded like a fool. Absolutely, Vivian. Truth is the foundation of journalism. Oh, the irony. I pressed my finger to my earpiece, signaling my inside man in IT. And that's when the fireworks began. A flicker on the screen, a glitch, a technical malfunction. And then, boom. The screen behind James suddenly changed. The planned segment was supposed to display some generic newsroom footage. Instead, it now showed a slideshow of texts. Texts that weren't meant to be seen. Not by the audience, not by his colleagues, and certainly not by the millions of people watching at home. I can't stop thinking about last night. I still feel you on me. She has no idea. We'll have the whole weekend to ourselves, baby. Do you like when I touch you there? Should I remind you tonight? And then, the pictures. Oh, those delicious, incriminating, explicit pictures. James, Elena, together, in hotel rooms, in our bed, in places they should never have been. James froze. His smile vanished. The audience gasped. Vivian leaned back, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. Oh, dear, she murmured into the microphone. James, it seems like we're having a bit of a broadcast error. But we weren't. This was intentional. This was surgical. This was revenge. James scrambled, his face draining of color. I I don't know what this is, he stammered, glancing wildly at the crew. There must be some mistake. Vivian tilted her head. Oh? Because these messages seem to be coming from your phone, James. Silence. Dead, cold, silence. And then, chaos. Phones rang. Social media exploded. The producers whispered frantically in their earpieces. James reached for his microphone, but I was already a step ahead. I gave the second signal, and the screen changed again. This time, it wasn't just texts. It was video footage, hotel security tapes, elevator footage. James and Elena sneaking in together, kissing, laughing, touching. The final dagger? Audio from our bedroom camera. Oh, yes. The same camera he had installed for home security. Only now, it was securing his destruction. You feel so good, baby. Elena's voice purred over the speakers. Scarlett will never know, James whispered back. The audience lost their minds. Gasps, shouts, laughter. And me? I was standing right behind the cameras, watching it all unfold. James shot up from his seat, face twisted in horror. Shut it off, he yelled, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. Turn it off, now! But it was too late, because the entire world had already seen it. And just when he thought it couldn't get worse, I walked onto the stage. Dressed in black silk, heels clicking against the floor, I sauntered towards him like a queen reclaiming her throne. James turned, eyes wide. His wife was now standing before him, and I held the microphone. The audience fell into stunned silence. I leaned in, smiled sweetly, and said the words that would end him. Hello, James. You look surprised. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? The crowd erupted. Social media exploded. And James Kensington? He was about to lose everything. Right here, right now, live. The studio was in complete chaos. Producers were scrambling. Audience members were whispering in shock and delight. And James? Well, James looked like a man who had just been thrown into the gates of hell. I stood in the center of the storm, microphone in hand, my black silk dress hugging every inch of confidence I wore like armor. James's face was ashen, his usual cocky smirk replaced with something deliciously unfamiliar. Raw, naked panic. He tried to reach for me, whispering through clenched teeth, Scarlett, not here. Oh, baby. Here was the only place this was going to happen. I tilted my head, letting the silence stretch, letting him suffer. Then, I did something that sent a shock wave through the entire room. I laughed. A slow, seductive, wicked little chuckle, and the audience went feral. I turned to them, my voice smooth as silk. I'd like to apologize, everyone, I said sweetly. This wasn't exactly the news segment you were expecting, was it? A few people chuckled, others murmured, but everyone was hooked. I turned back to James, lowering my voice just enough so the microphone still caught every syllable. Tell me, James, was it worth it? His Adam's apple bobbed. He had no idea how to respond. Good. Let him squirm. 7 years, James, I continued, my voice dripping with mock sympathy. 7 years of marriage? 7 years of trust. And you threw it all away for what? A little late-night fun with my best friend? The audience gasped. Oh, I wasn't done. I turned to the camera, millions of people watching from their homes, and smiled. By the way, America, meet Elena Hart, my best friend. Well, former best friend. The screens behind me changed once again, a close-up of Elena's Instagram profile. Her perfect little curated life, her captions about loyalty and sisterhood, her carefully staged photos with me, arms wrapped around each other like we were sisters. And then, boom. A montage of security footage, her sneaking into hotels, her car parked outside my house when I was out of town, her walking into my bedroom. The camera zoomed in on James's face. He was sweating. Elena, who had been watching this unravel from backstage, suddenly burst onto the set, heels clacking furiously. "Scarlett, stop this!" she shrieked. I turned to her, completely unfazed. "Oh, sweetheart," I purred, "you've already ruined your reputation. At least let me make it entertaining." The audience lost their minds. James tried to salvage it. He turned to the camera, forcing a pathetic smile. Look, folks," he stammered. "There's been some kind of misunderstanding." I raised a perfectly manicured hand. "Oh, a misunderstanding? You mean this?" I pulled my final ace, a printed divorce paper. Signed, sealed, delivered. The audience roared. I let the paper flutter dramatically onto the table. "I already took care of everything, James," I said, voice dripping in satisfaction. "You're officially a free man. Congratulations." Silence. Then, thunderous applause. The cameras caught everything. The broken man, the humiliated mistress, the scorned wife standing gloriously victorious. James stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You planned this?" he whispered. I smiled. "Oh, baby, you have no idea." But we weren't done. Not yet. Because while James had lost his marriage, he was about to lose something much, much worse. His career. And I was going to be the one to take it from him. Live in front of millions. The room was thick with tension, shock, and pure chaos. James was frozen. Elena was shaking. The audience was roaring with disbelief, gasps, and whispers. The studio lights cast a harsh glow on James's pale face, highlighting the beads of sweat forming on his forehead. But me? I was standing tall, basking in the sweet, intoxicating power of revenge. Because this was just the beginning. James Kensington had just lost his marriage. But I wasn't just taking his personal life. No, I was about to burn down his entire career. Live in front of millions. And he had no way out. James took a deep breath, his eyes darting wildly across the room, searching for someone. Anyone. To save him from the train wreck that was his life falling apart in real time. He turned to Vivian Cole, the show's host, desperately gripping the arm of his chair. "Vivian," he forced a nervous laugh, "this is obviously some kind of prank, right? A last-ditch effort. A pathetic one." Vivian arched a perfectly manicured brow, then leaned forward smirking. "Oh, James, if this is a prank, it's the best one I've ever seen." The audience erupted in laughter. James's jaw ticked, his hands clenched into fists. I could see the rage brewing inside him, the same rage he had so carefully concealed behind his TV-perfect charm for years. But it didn't matter, because no amount of smooth talking was going to save him now. I stepped forward, tapping my microphone. "Actually, James," I said, my voice dripping with sweet, slow, venomous pleasure, "there's something else I've been dying to share with the world." His head snapped toward me. Fear, real, raw, crippling fear flickered across his face. "Good." I turned to the camera, my confidence radiating through every fiber of my being. "America, I have a little secret to share about our dear James Kensington." I motioned to the screen behind me, and then the final dagger. The screen shifted. Security footage. A new video. This time, James accepting a bribe. The audience collectively sucked in a breath. The footage showed James in a dimly lit restaurant, shaking hands with a well-known political figure, the same man he had conveniently avoided criticizing in every single news segment, the same man who had mysteriously avoided being exposed despite the numerous scandals swirling around him. The footage? Crystal clear. The audio? Even better. "You keep my name out of your reports and we'll make sure your pockets stay heavy." James's voice. Undeniable. Caught, red-handed. The studio went silent. The kind of silence that's so thick, so loaded, so spine-chillingly final that even James himself seemed to realize. It was over. His hands gripped his seat, his breath hitched, His eyes darted around, looking for an escape, but there was none. Vivian, ever the journalist, seized the moment like a shark sensing blood. She slowly turned to him, leaning in with a wicked smirk. "James Kensington, are you saying this is fake too?" The camera zoomed in on him. Trapped, cornered, exposed. The audience erupted in shock. James's breathing turned ragged. His face was twisting, pure, unfiltered desperation. I don't. But the damage was done. Because while he sat there, stunned into humiliation, the world was already turning against him. Within minutes, social media exploded. Breaking news: James Kensington caught cheating and taking bribes. Live on national television. Career over. James Kensington. Exposed was trending worldwide. Major news outlets were already calling for his resignation. His phone buzzed furiously on the table. Calls, emails, texts. His PR team was scrambling, but it was too late because his downfall was irreversible. And then, for the final, most deliciously savage moment, I walked toward him, the entire audience holding its breath. James turned to me, broken, shaking. His voice cracked. "Scarlett, why?" "Oh, baby." I leaned in, my lips just inches from his ear, and whispered the words that would haunt him for the rest of his miserable life. "Because you made me your wife, but you forgot I was always a queen." And then I took my wedding ring and dropped it onto his lap. The cameras caught everything, and the crowd lost their minds. James Kensington's career was officially dead. His marriage, gone. His image, shattered. And me? I walked out of that studio glorious, victorious, and untouchable. The world now knew my name, not as the scorned wife, but as the woman who took revenge. Live. And it was the best damn show of my life.